For 25 years, she has been the reason America turns on the television in the morning. The bright, quick presence in millions of living rooms before the coffee finishes brewing. Dawn call times. Unscripted television. Off-the-cuff moments caught live on camera, holding it together while the world around her wobbled. Then, on July 27, 2026, the seat was empty. There was no network fight, no contract standoff, no tabloid scandal. Kelly Ripa, who has pushed through anxiety, grief, health scares, and a TV industry that has tried to replace her 3 times, missed nearly 2 weeks of work because her doctors told her to stop speaking. This time, she finally listened. Mark Consuelos sat in her chair that morning, the way a husband does when he is proud and exasperated and quietly worried all at once. In the warm, familiar tone that makes morning television sound lighter than it is, Mark told America what was happening. Doctors had recommended the surgery more than 5 years ago, he said, and he was trying to keep her following the rules. Kevin Jonas, the guest host, looked straight into the lens and said, half laughing, "That's got to be the hardest thing she's ever done." He was not joking. What that missing morning really asks is what the 25 years leading up to it were made of. What does it say about a woman this controlled, this health-obsessed, this relentlessly professional, that she kept postponing a recommended medical procedure for 5 straight years? What was she guarding? And what has it cost her? Think about that for a second. When was the last time you put off something your body needed because the obligation felt bigger than the need? Leave a comment below, because that question is at the heart of this story. To answer it, we have to go back to the beginning. The woman who could not stop talking for a week and a half in the summer of 2026 was built, slowly and deliberately, out of a working-class town in New Jersey. Kelly Ripa was born on October 2, 1970, in Stratford, a small borough in Camden County. The kind of place where everyone knows your family, where your father's job quietly defines your standing, and where you carry your ambitions privately, because saying them out loud feels presumptuous. Her father, Joseph, drove a school bus and worked as a labor union official. Her mother, Esther, kept the home. A working-class Catholic family in a working-class Catholic town, modest and stable. The kind of childhood that does not prepare you for live television, but somehow prepares you for everything else. She danced. She acted in school plays. By every account, she was the girl who lit up a room without trying. Not a coached, managed child star, just a restless, expressive kid with a genuine surplus of energy that needed somewhere to go. She went to Eastern Regional High School in Voorhees Township, where her talent kept growing alongside an academic record that was, by her own admission, less impressive than her theatrical one. She was not the student who stayed after class to analyze literature. She was the student who stayed after rehearsal to run the scene once more. That distinction tells you the kind of intelligence Kelly actually has. Not the kind rewarded by tests, but the kind rewarded by an audience. The ability to feel the energy of a room and respond in real time, with no script and no net. Working-class communities have their own codes and unspoken rules. When to speak, when to listen, when to make everyone laugh so the tension dissolves before it becomes something worse. Kelly absorbed all of it. Her break did not come through a Hollywood audition or an agent spotting her in a school play. It came through a local dance competition in New Jersey, where a casting connection led, the way these things do, to something that seemed small at the time and turned out to be everything. In 1990, at 20 years old, with no professional credits and no industry connections, Kelly Ripa was cast in the ABC soap opera, All My Children, as Haley Vaughn Santos. She would stay 12 years. 12 years of daily tapings, of pages of dialogue memorized overnight, of hitting exact emotional marks on demand, episode after episode, without losing the freshness that makes a performance feel alive. Daytime television is the most punishing training ground in American television, and the actors who survive it and move up do not survive because they are the most talented. They survive because they are the most disciplined. Kelly was both. It was on that set, in 1995, that she met Mark Consuelos. He was 23, born in Zaragoza, Spain. To an Italian mother and a Mexican father, cast as Mateo Santos, the love interest written to be paired with Kelly's Haley. They were supposed to have chemistry. That was the job. The job was not supposed to be real. Kelly has spoken about it over the years with her trademark candor. Not oversharing, not performing vulnerability, simply telling the truth. She has described it as a certainty more than a feeling. She knew almost immediately. Mark, in his quieter way, has echoed it. They married on May 1st, 1996, in Las Vegas, both 25. Known each other for less than a year. Their families were cautious. Their colleagues were skeptical. By the standards of almost any industry, it was impulsive. 3 decades later, they are still married. Michael arrived on June 2nd, 1997. Lola on June 16th, 2001. Joaquin on February 24th, 2003. 3 children in 6 years, while Kelly was still filming All My Children 5 days a week and beginning the transition that would define the second act of her career. The logistics alone would have broken most people. Kelly has never pretended it was easy. She has simply never pretended it was a reason to slow down. On February 5th, 2001, at 30 years old, a mother of 1 with 2 more on the way, she walked onto the set of Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, filling the chair left by Kathy Lee Gifford. Everyone, the network, the audience, the industry, expected a long transition. A year, maybe 2, of the audience slowly warming to whoever the replacement turned out to be. What they got instead was Kelly Ripa, who matched Regis Philbin's energy from day one with the instinctive, improvisational fluency of someone who had spent 11 years doing the hardest version of live performance there is. She was not a replacement for Kathy Lee. She was something entirely new. And America noticed within weeks. Working alongside Regis sharpened the skills All My Children had begun to develop. The ability to pivot without warning, to find humor in dead air, to carry a segment when your co-host goes somewhere unexpected and you have about 3 seconds to decide whether to follow or redirect. Kelly followed, almost always. She learned more about live television in 10 years with Regis Philbin than most hosts learn in an entire career. Regis retired in 2011. Kelly spent nearly a year with a rotating cast of guest co-hosts before Michael Strahan became her permanent partner in 2012. They won Emmys together. Strahan's abrupt departure for Good Morning America in 2016 sent the show into another year of rotating guests. Different energy, different chemistry to calibrate, live in front of millions, with no rehearsal and no margin for error. Ryan Seacrest took the chair in 2017. The ratings held. Then, in 2023, the show did something no major morning talk show in American television history had done before. It brought Mark Consuelos in as permanent co-host. A married couple, working together, full-time, live. Everyone asked the same skeptical question. Would the familiarity of marriage undermine the chemistry that live television requires? The answer came quickly and unambiguously. It worked. Because beneath all the television craft, they are genuinely interested in each other. They argue, they tease, they occasionally drive each other to visible exasperation on camera, and audiences love every second of it because it is real. It is the most real thing on morning television, and in a media environment saturated with performance, real is rare enough to be compelling. In 2025, the show won the Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Talk Show. Nobody who watched was surprised. But here's what the cameras never showed you, what the job actually costs. Morning television is not glamorous machinery. It is a wake-up call before sunrise. Hair and makeup before the sun rises. Rundowns and briefing notes before the first guest arrives. Then an hour of live TV that has to feel spontaneous, warm, and effortless to millions of people who are themselves barely awake. 5 days a week, most of the year. Kelly has done it for 25 years. She has been open, in her measured way, about what the schedule demands. The early morning workouts, the nutritional discipline, the sleep optimization that stops being a preference and becomes a clinical necessity when your alarm goes off before dawn. None of that is vanity. It is infrastructure, the physical scaffolding that makes the performance possible, day after day. She has said, in interviews, that the discipline required to keep her healthy is directly connected to the discipline required to do her job. You cannot show up depleted at 5 a.m. and produce an hour of compelling live television. And yet, the gum surgery sat unaddressed for 5 years. Doctors flagged it around 2021. That was the year the world was still catching its breath after the pandemic. The year Kelly was hosting live 5 mornings a week, running a production company, shepherding her youngest child toward adulthood, doing it all with the kind of relentless, disciplined energy that made other overachievers tired just watching. She heard the recommendation, she understood it, and she kept talking. Gum graft surgery is not a vanity treatment, and it is not elective in any real sense. When gum tissue pulls away from the teeth, the roots are exposed. Left alone, recession triggers sensitivity, damage to the bone underneath, and eventually tooth loss. The surgery takes tissue from the roof of the mouth or a donor source and attaches it where the gum has retreated. It requires anesthesia, recovery time, and above all, silence. No talking, no laughing, no performing. For most people, a week or two of recovery is an inconvenience. For Kelly Ripa, it was apparently impossible to imagine. For 5 years. Here is something worth sitting with. A woman who monitors her health the way a professional athlete monitors her body, who treats physical maintenance as a professional necessity, postponed a recommended procedure for half a decade. The record is the record. She optimizes everything, and she deferred the one thing that was only for her, again and again, until July 27, 2026, when the choice was finally taken out of her hands. The truth is, she had been circling this moment for months. On February 20th, 2026, she celebrated 25 years on live, a quarter of a century. More than 6,000 mornings, give or take the sick days she never took, the personal days she never claimed, the surgery she postponed for 5 years rather than miss a single taping. And everyone, gently, awkwardly, asked the obvious question. Was she thinking about leaving? The parallel was too neat to ignore. Oprah had left her show after 25 years. Nobody in the industry was ignoring it. So Kelly did something characteristic of her. She sought advice from Oprah Winfrey. Not to ask permission, not to follow a template, but because if anyone in television history understands the specific weight of 25 years in daytime and the terrifying question of what exists on the other side, it is Oprah. Oprah did not tell Kelly what she wanted to hear. She told her what she believed. "Don't leave," Oprah said. "Don't do it. Right now, you'll regret it." With you and Mark, the dynamic, the show is more important than ever. People really relate to it, and they need that in this world of a lot of darkness and an endless 24-hour, never-ending news cycle. Kelly's answer was characteristically hers. "I always say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it," she said. "We are really having a very good time." And she stayed. She stayed, and the show won the Daytime Emmy. She stayed, and the ratings held, and the doctors kept recommending the gum surgery, and she kept deferring it, and the chair kept being filled, and Kelly Ripa kept showing up, until July 27th. Think about what that morning actually was. Beneath the medical details, the fond husband commentary, the on-air joke from her guest host, July 27th, was the first concrete evidence in 25 years that Kelly Ripa's relationship with her own limits is changing. Not dramatically. Not in the way that produces headlines about breakdowns or departures. Quietly, at the level of a dental appointment finally kept, a recovery period finally respected, a stretch of mornings finally surrendered to the simple human necessity of healing. The hardest thing she has ever done, Kevin Jonas said, and it is hard to argue with him. This is a woman who has been open, on the record, about the machinery she runs on, the anxiety she has described living with, the perimenopause and menopause discussed with a candor that helped an entire generation of women, the days when the professional obligation overrode the physical signal that something needed attention. She has never performed vulnerability for sympathy. She simply tells the truth, because pretending is more exhausting than telling it. And the truth is that what comes next is genuinely unknown. Unknown to the industry. Unknown to the audience. Kelly herself has been characteristically unsentimental about it. "I believe this show will continue on for as long as linear television exists," she has said. "The show is bigger than any individual who has ever sat in that chair, including the woman who has sat there for 25 years and made it what it is. Whether she gives it another 5 years or another 10, whether July 27th turns out to be an isolated moment or the first in a series of quiet recalibrations, is a question with no answer yet, even in the most honest accounting for Kelly herself. Here is what is known. She has spent a quarter of a century being the most reliable presence in American morning television. She has done it through anxiety and grief and rotating co-hosts and predictions of obsolescence and a global pandemic, and a marriage that became a partnership and 3 children who grew up and left while she kept the alarm set for before dawn. She has done it with humor and warmth and a fundamental decency that has never once felt like performance, because it is not performance. It is who she is. And on July 27th, 2026, for the first time in 25 years, she let someone else sit in her chair. She let her husband tell America she was resting. She let the show go on without her for close to 2 weeks, while she recovered from the surgery she had been putting off since 2021. Here is another way to read that morning. The hardest thing Kelly Ripa has ever done was also, finally, putting herself first. Just this once. Just for a couple of weeks. After 25 years of proving, every single morning, that she did not need to. That is not a small thing for a woman who has given this much, for this long, to this many people. That is everything. So here is the question this story leaves you with, because it is the only one that matters. When was the last time you put off something important for yourself? Something a doctor recommended? Something your body needed? Because the obligation felt bigger than the need? And when, if ever, did you finally stop? Drop it in the comments. Because if a woman who spent 25 years proving she did not need to stop finally did, there is room for the rest of us to try. Kelly will be back in her chair soon, as she always comes back. But now you know what it took to get her there.